Hello, hello, team. So happy to see everybody's beaming faces today. You all look great. I hope you're feeling great. Uh, we're happy for the audiences with us today to present to you all our primary roundtable discussion, the Conscious Markets Group Higher Purpose Business webinar, this roundtable series. And in this interview today, we have Melissa Meza and Amanda Noeldichin from RiseUp Residential. And we're very excited about the RiseUp team. They're stars in their space uh, who have been working and advocates for women equality and better workplace results and outcomes, and as well as affordable housing outcomes, and have been doing that for many years together. We're partnered with them for our Revival Opportunity Fund, and you'll learn more about the Revival Opportunity Fund on the call out link there. You can see at the bottom of the page, opportunityfund.me. We're just very excited about what we're doing. We're partnering with faith-based and community-based landowners in order to revitalize communities. We call this the revival, and this comes through uh, leveraging affordable housing tax incentives of different types of government incentives, as well as tax equity and philanthropic investor hybrid strategy to increase localized ownership as we build more affordable and workforce housing and mixed-use housing in primarily Southern California, and then also in different states where we're looking at projects right now in the Bible Belt. So this is a $50 million fund, and we're partnered with RiseUp as well as one other developer. And so we're very excited to present this to you to kind of bring a new paradigm of community development of the Opportunity Zone program, which we're leveraging, and generally speaking, new innovative ways to invest. And we have two ladies here who are award-winning real estate investors for their innovation. So happy to pass it over now. Timothy Morgan, our head of marketing, as well as Janice Ferris-Manny, our head of operations, will be leading this discussion and this kind of walkthrough interview. And then the CMG team will feel free to chime in with our thoughts, because we're all really passionate on this topic of higher purpose. And looking forward to inspire the audience, as well as inspire you to do your own works, as well as to invest in ours, that we can be one body in this great commission that we have together to serve our community. So let's go ahead and pass it over, and we're thankful for all of our attendees.
There's some amazing stories in this room, ladies and gentlemen, and I think that's an apt place to start. So I'd love to hear from Melissa and Amanda how they got into the space to begin with. I found it fascinating as I've gotten to know these ladies and their work and their results. It's just unreal. But ultimately, we want to know, like, how did you even get into the space? Amanda, do you want to share with us first?
Sure. Hi. My name's Amanda. I started in real estate investment in Philadelphia. So I'm not a local San Diego native, but I has started real estate investing in 1999. So we're going to say I was about 3. From there, I built a large design and renovation company. And I had a store and all that kind of stuff. My family decided to move out to the San Diego area for a life change and to be near family. And the first thing I noticed when I moved here was how shocking the homelessness situation is in the San Diego area, and how much it has expanded over the last number of years here. And, prior to moving here, I was very involved in charity work and raising money. It was focused actually on NICU for prenatal care for women that didn't have access to health care. And moving here, again, seeing how shocking the homelessness problem was, I moved into realizing that is also a healthcare issue, right? Not people being unhoused. I'm a huge believer, it's one of your basic needs: food, water, shelter. And being a real estate investor and being the one in construction and the first one into the property most times, I was seeing what the displacement was doing to people and how difficult it was. And I just became fully committed to taking my powers of real estate investing and using them for good versus evil, and finding a partner that is like-minded with me. And that is what took me to meeting Melissa. So she can take her story from here.
Yay.
Well, first of all, thank you, Fani, Timothy, and Janice for having us today as we launch this fund and really get into the weeds of the work. I just wanted to commend you guys for all the work you've done and bringing this entire group together to even make this mission and everything that we're doing possible. So I'd be remiss if I didn't address that. But hello to everybody else. My name is Melissa Meza. I am the co-founder alongside Amanda Noldecken for RiseUp Residential, and I'm also the CEO. I have been in the real estate investment space for a little over 20 years now. I have touched over 5,000 properties on the acquisition as well as the disposition side, and that spans 13 different states in the United States. Currently, our primary focus is just San Diego, California, but hopefully as we grow and expand, we can take this model to other areas to help other, urban areas and metro areas throughout the United States. How I specifically found myself in this space was actually not the story you're probably expecting. Back in 2015, I was the director of RiseUp Residential. We were a $500 million real estate investment fund. I was purchasing upwards of 25 million of property per day through our acquisition channels and making all direct buy decisions and running that fund. And at the peak of my career, so to speak, I was in my early 30s. I was a single mother. I would work at 6 a.m. and I wouldn't get off until 9 or 10 at night. And, I got burnt out and I realized, I was making money and I was doing all of these things, but at what cost? I was missing every recital and every assembly and everything my daughter had. So I figured there was a better, easier way of life. Insert at the same time, I met a gentleman that swept me off my feet. So I left the major, massive, institutional fund realm, and I went ahead and started my own company. With my business partner at the time, we were focused on green renovations and, really trying to reduce our carbon footprint through fix and flips and developments. Unfortunately, that relationship didn't turn out to be what was best for me. He was highly abusive and, actually just got out of jail from being convicted for 18 felonies for stalking and attempted murder against me. So I was in a very, very awful situation and the domestic violence and everything that transpired, I was at a loss, coming from somebody that is very outspoken and, very independent. How I found myself in that position made me realize if it could happen to me, it could happen to absolutely anybody. My saving grace at the time was I'm located in San Diego. This is where I'm born and raised. I have a ton of friends. I have a huge family system. Your tribe is your vibe. And they really lifted me up and got me back on my feet when I left, which was 90 days before our wedding. So that was back in 2018, right about the same time as I kind of jumped headfirst back into, the investing space and the industry as a whole. I had the benefit of meeting Amanda, and, we sat down and we kind of discussed, and I wanted to get back to the green renovations, but I also wanted to make sure that if we were doing developments and focusing, on this nonprofit, that we were able to help other domestic violence survivors and women and children so that they didn't have to go through the same thing I did, where you feel so isolated and alone. We wanted to lift everybody up, and we wanted to create that safe space because, like I said, if it wasn't for my friends and family, I would have been homeless at that point in time. And it's just crazy to think about at this point in time. So RiseUp Residential was born. Initially, we wanted to create, affordable housing, low-income housing and shelters for domestic violence survivors, as I said. Since then, it's grown to include veterans, ADA accessible first-floor units for the elderly. We're looking at partnering with, another nonprofit for transitional youth. We really realized that with the amount of homelessness, housing insecurity, and those being unsheltered, especially introducing the pandemic and COVID and what that did to San Diego, there was really a drastic need for low income and affordable housing for those most vulnerable in our society. Thus, RiseUp Residential was born.
Wow, what a story, ladies and gentlemen.
You. Amazing.
Janice, I know that we were talking previously about these stories and how it ties into what we're all working on together. I'm curious of your thoughts and maybe share a little bit of your background as it relates to these stories, and maybe you have some questions as well.
Certainly. So first of all, thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Melissa. Amazing, amazing powerhouse, not only women, but I'm going to say developers in this space that have really taken on ownership and have carved out their niche. So My hat's off to you. It's been amazing getting to know you for the past couple of weeks, and it's exciting. So some of my just general background has been in civil engineering, city and regional planning, with a bent in the community development space. So to hear Amanda's story about empowering and taking on some of her passion and moving it into a realm of economic development is phenomenal. That's what we all want to be, I would think. And this is a broadcast and a talk about higher purpose. So with that in mind, we want to, I would think, dive into our purpose and our intent. And with that said, Melissa going through what she went through, my goodness, to be able to stand out of that and stand through that and walk through that to say of your empowerment. I just had to give some nods. It's just amazing. So all of that to say, the intent that you have is just so passionate and so heartfelt. So you've moved it into true purpose, both of you. So with that said, and thinking as developers, as women in this space, and we have to acknowledge that we are women. How can we really begin to move this initiative forward to build the fervor and the natural inclination by other developers, other people who want to circumvent or want to contribute, if you will, to the homeless or the unhoused? I wanted to use both terms on purpose because that is what was known. Let's say unhoused community, and really meeting all of those markets. And then I'll tell you a bit more about some of my work that I've done, but I want to hear from you too.
So
how can we move more into that space?
That's a great question. So the area that Melissa and I focus on in RiseUp Residential and in our for-profit development as well is infill development. So it's utilizing the existing land in San Diego because there's never going to be created. So we've got in the affordable housing space, there are these larger players that build these giant, units that we're all very well aware of. But there's also this very unique need to leverage all of the land we have, because that's one thing we can't make more of, right? We have we have interesting microclimates here in San Diego. It's very interesting, I'm coming at it from a construction perspective, right? Because that's kind of where my heart is. And it's very difficult you can't make more land, and there's not very many large plots that we can build to meet our housing needs. So what we need to do is we need to focus on what we specialize in. And I look to the student housing model at SDSU. Right. So there was a group of investors of us that went into this area, and we built all of this housing for student housing, and has made such a tremendous difference in that area. And what we need to do is we need to foster that same competition, that same innovation, and bring it to the affordable housing space. And that's one of the primary things that RiseUp Residential does as well. Melissa and I are really working hard to blaze this path to figure out how do we leverage these new laws, which we've done a good job in the for-profit space, but in the nonprofit space, it's, a lot of the funding isn't available for this type of properties that are designated certain coding designations and stuff like that. So what we're doing is we're trying to work together with various organizations to come together to figure out not only the funding, but the process, the right vendors, all that kind of stuff, so that we can just share that, right? The investor community, while we may quote unquote be competitors, we're all friends, right? The market that we deal with, we're all friends. We want to share the knowledge and share the information, because this isn't a scarcity problem. The affordable housing problem is a giant problem, and not one or two people are going to fix it. We need to get all of our friends together in this space, whether you be impact investors, whether it be other developers, come together to work together. And that's one of the things we do. We want to share this information. That's why we have webinars like this. That's why anybody can call us and say, hey, how did you do this? We're going to sit down. We will sit down and talk to a neighbor and say, you want to build something and you want to make it affordable in your neighborhood? Let us help you. We will do that, because it is so important that we all come together and we all try to answer this problem together.
Exactly. Agreed. Melissa, you want to chime in here?
To add to that, yeah, I would love to. So, as Amanda said, we focus on infill development, and that's basically, we are mid-market developers. So the mid-market space, as far as affordable housing and you have your massive developments, and then you have your mid-markets, and your mid-markets have always been kind of luxury or smaller mom and pops and things like that. But with the especially for San Diego, as she mentioned, we're not building any more land. So how are we going to solve this problem? And it's really going to be, the massive, large scale, developers coming in and doing what they do best. But those projects, can be anywhere from 100 to 300 units and take anywhere from 5 to 8 years to complete. It is a tremendous impact on San Diego, but it moves a lot slower. The benefit of infill development is kind of three-pronged. First, we can do it much quicker. We can be in and out of these projects and have certain ones built anywhere from 1 to 2 years, depending on what the product is. Secondly, we can partner with other nonprofits or bring to neighborhoods and the space specifically what that neighborhood and that community is requiring. Where can we fill the gaps? Where can we help raise up these communities and the people that have always historically lived in them? In San Diego, 65%, I just heard today, of San Diegans live paycheck to paycheck. So people are literally one catastrophic life event away from being homeless. And that could be anything from their vehicle breaking down to an illness or a death in the family. And San Diegans should not have to live in the community that they were born and raised and have generations of people that have lived here and get pushed out of our communities because of turnover, because of luxury, because of inflation and higher interest rates and things like that. Has created a very unique climate here. And if we can bring in these infill development and these mid-market projects, we are catering to the communities that desperately need us. And we are keeping people in the communities that they have historically lived and thrived in, meaning their kids go to the same school, they keep the same doctor, they use the same transit, they have a support system. So what we are doing with CMG Revival Partners and their funds and the communities that we are going into, it is really allowing the communities to thrive and people from all demographics and all society, different levels, whether you're the rich or the poor, to live and flourish in the same communities and not create a caste system here in San Diego where the rich live in one side and the poor live in the other. So we're looking to be that mid-market fix to this solution.
Leveling the playing field. The playing field. That's amazing. Yes. And what really comes to mind for me is that statistic that you gave, that 65%. That's pretty much nomenclature around the entire United States. That's not too far off the mark in any given market around the United States. So thank you for that statistic. One interesting caveat, I think, to this mid-level marketing, if I may add very quickly, CMG team, is that I find it really fascinating. I was an appointed volunteer on the homeless and healthcare. That was the title of the actual committee for the for the county of Santa Clara, which was one of the largest encampments in California and actually in the United States. Dead center here, Silicon Valley, one of the richest communities, the richest counties, if you will, in the United States, in the world, actually. And it was quite fascinating that we had I better not give the statistic because it was a moving target. However, we were developing, as part of this committee, we were developing actual 360 programs that actually work directly with developers on their projects. So that mid-level marketing, but also providing the additional services. Maybe could you speak to some of that? Because I know that a lot of your connections and your ecosystem is broad, if you will, but very enriching in that space. And I think the listeners may be interested in knowing that as well.
So, in addition, you're talking about in our mid-market community development that we make. We also in our communities we offer what we call enhanced tenant services. So, like Melissa touched on earlier, we are very set on helping people stay within their communities. However, when you experience a life event or something that leads you down the path of potential homelessness, there's a lot of trauma associated with that. And like she said, there's also 65% of people one paycheck away from homelessness here in San Diego. And Janice, to your point, in many other places, which is a really scary statistic. But that also, again, comes with trauma. So what we do is there are the larger organizations that are often permanent supportive housing, but there are things that we are doing that we call enhanced tenant services. So we partner with other nonprofits that help people with that specific community interest lift each other back up, and we provide enhanced tenant services. So for example, if you're coming out of homelessness, a lot of times, particularly with the way that San Diego has recently criminalized homelessness,
Yes.
you lose a lot of things. I was driving to a property the other day, and I was watching as things are going into the trash can of people that were living in a tent. That means your IDs. That means your mail. That means anything that is personal to you. And do you know how hard it is to get to the DMV and find a new license when you already don't have one and you don't have an address? And do you know that you need that and you need an address to get a job? Right? So what we do as part of this is we offer enhanced tenant services. So it's not super highly supportive. People are still independent, living in the communities which they're in. But in these little mini communities that we create, we have resources there for people to help. And we do specialize them. So for example, if it's a domestic violence place where we have people with children, we'll offer tutoring services or help establish it with tutoring services. We create community spaces. We are just in the process of closing escrow on a new building where we're actually creating a park inside the property because we have room for it. But right now it's just dead land. It's for these children's enrichment, right? So we do little things at each of our properties. And I think, again, to Melissa's point earlier, us being mothers, I look at the moms who are playing with their kids on their sidewalk, and I see I could make that way safer for them. I could fence in an area, and these kids, not only does those activities play as required, but it's actually enrichment, right? It's enrichment for these kids. So
Brilliant.
we do all of those things at our communities to create true communities, not just houses, not just spaces, but true communities for these people. And it is very specialized, but we do offer an enhanced tenant services at each of our communities.
It's awesome. Ifani, I know, had a question. I can tell it's burning.
Yeah,
Oh,
and I would
no,
like to add to that.
Yeah, let Melissa add
Oh,
to
yes,
that. That's
please,
great.
Melissa.
Yeah, I would like to add to that. It's a housing, a home is the only thing that will solve homelessness. But as anybody that works in the space knows, that is just the beginning. Having those wraparound support services, having even case managers on site to help them navigate the system and figure out what services are available to them is a huge help on creating and lifting up the individual so that they can hopefully stand on their own 2 feet. And some will be able to, and some will not. But to the ones that can, to get them self-sufficient, to get them independent, and to have them actually reintegrate into society as a functioning adult is really our end goal. Because again, a home solves homelessness. That is just the beginning. So the best we can do is create the housing, create the inventory, create more units through what we're doing, and then integrate and partner with other nonprofits that this is what they do all day long. Amanda and I, we're one-trick ponies. We know how to build housing. We are developers. But everyone else kind of comes in and creates that community that we so desperately need here in a lot of our areas.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. And I know Tim, you had a question as well. I'll go ahead and pose mine quickly because, ladies, this is really fantastic for us to get all these salient points out to the audience and our audience, and for them to see the alignment with CMG's ethos, our double bottom line strategy of social and financial return. And you can see how the focus on community-centered approach is something that carries through from the top all the way down through all of our developer partners that we've selected. For example, the RiseUp team that we were introduced with earlier in 2023, we built on that initial relationship and saw a strong alignment with their extended resident services and their innovation with infill development in particular to help lead our community-based strategy, which is primarily taking institutional and accredited investment dollars and bringing that as a bridge into smaller size buildings and into unique and innovative investment structures. And so, having a double bottom line that's also going to look at the social return, that requires us to have capacity building. And so when we work with partners who are on the ground floor that have either directly or through their affiliates, strong capacity building for neighborhood capacity development services, as well as programs, that is how we're able to ensure that what we're developing in communities and the capital that we're bringing in is going to have a measured as well as a involved impact. And so they're really exemplary of that. So the question that I have for y'all is, how do you compare this paradigm that we have, that you have through RiseUp Residential, with other investment paradigms and entrepreneurial paradigms that you've seen both in real estate and in general? How does it compare from the perspective of what you've talked about, how you compare from the perspective of the ways you practically implement your differentiating factors, the way that you stood up to the world and your amazing journey. So how does it compare for you? What are the challenges that you see in this path, mentally and spiritually as well? What are the sort of steps that you take on a day-to-day basis to continue with your alignment?
I can start. So development in the for-profit space is hard, right? I mean, everybody's job is hard, but the development is in the for-profit space is hard. In the nonprofit space, it's been incredibly difficult. I think more difficult, to be totally honest, than either one of us initially thought. And you know, we have been very lucky. It's honestly, it's just perseverance. I think having a co-founder in this has been amazing, because there are some days, you know, it gets a little bit hard, but I think in terms of it's in the joy. Let me give a very specific example. So we are just purchasing a building in the Grant Hill area where we are preserving affordable housing. So it was us against another developer, right? And I was walking the property and I saw this little boy, and I saw the fear on the residents' faces. The other developer was going to come in and razor the building, right? And it would be displacing 12 families. And my motivation, I can picture that little boy every day, right? Like I saw him yesterday. I think about the difference, because sometimes it is enough to make a difference in one person's life, right? I mean, we're fortunate enough that we have the opportunity to make the difference in a lot of people's lives. But I can picture his face every day. So if there's a day I wake up and I'm like, oh, geez, I can't do this today, I just conjure up a picture and I'm like, but we're saving houses for children. Full stop. There's nothing better. There's nothing more rewarding than that. And we get the opportunity to build them a playground. We get the opportunity to build additional capacity on that property so we can give more people. When I was there, a woman walked up to me with a baby and she said, hey, do you have any availability in this unit? There's such a need that people are coming up to me on the street to find housing. So those are the success stories. Those are the reasons I'm lucky that I'm boots on the ground a lot, I think, because I get to see every single day the impact that I'm making, the fear that has been alleviated from those people who thought that they were going to potentially lose their houses. That's gone, you know, because I was there and I could say, we're here. We're not raising your rent. We're not changing anything. We're actually just going to enhance the property. That's all we're doing. And that makes people be able to sleep at night. And that's a pretty big privilege to be able to do that.
Amazing.
It's pretty rare when you can be a part of a project.
Again, I'd like to add to that
Yeah, Melissa, can we hear from you?
Oh, did you freeze?
Sorry, everything cut out on my screen. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, awesome. So I just kind of wanted to add to that I did want to, you know, just kind of relate to you guys and then to everybody that is that we also, for the project that Amanda is referencing, we received close to $1 million grant from the Regional Task Force on Homelessness to preserve that housing. And we're going to go in on that same lot and build 12 additional units of housing. So, you know, we are really, but as you guys know, it really does. It takes our entire community, from grants, from funding, from, you know, your fund to everything that we have going on right now. You know, it takes, everyone has a very specific role to play. And when everyone comes together, that's where the magic happens.
Excellently said. Yeah.
It's always nice at Fonnie, right? Like you were talking about before, the double bottom line. You have, you know, someone like myself or others who are interested in investing in something that has a social impact that's really something you can be proud of. You can share with your grandkids and your great grandkids, like, this is what I was a part of. And at the same time, you're also generating some nice returns on your time and your resources that you're allocating toward that particular project. And gosh, that can't think of anything better than that. Social conscious capitalism right there. I mean, let's go. Let's put some fuel in the vehicle and let's do more of this. It's a privilege to be able to hear these stories today.
You're building legacy, Tim.
Yep.
You know, this is what comes to mind when Amanda was talking about the little boy and then the mom with the baby, and Melissa had shared about, you know, just echoing that opportunity to work with those communities, and the triple bottom line. It's not even double. This is triple, because we're truly building legacy. And when you think of legacy, especially in communities that have lack of access, and lack of representation in the housing space, you can think about it is another layer, another line of wealth development. And we're not talking about wealth over wealth and the 1%. We're talking about wealth from the standpoint of being able to have, as you had said, Amanda, Maslow's law, food, shelter, you know, safety, you know, just the basics of basics. But how this truly impacts the community and humanity is just tremendous. So thank you.
Absolutely. That's huge. And to be, and kind of, Tim, just continue on the line of the double bottom line on the financial aspect. You know, we know that there's significant value from the impact of, you know, for example, retaining of residents, right? From having a better, you know, better amenities for those residents. But then also we're seeing the benefit of the incentives. Of course, you have the Opportunity Zone program, which gives 100% capital gains tax deferral initially, and then 100% capital gains tax write-off for a 10-year holding period. You have, you know, grants, and all of these things provide, you know, you have, for example, with our other developer partner, Logos Faith Development, you have religious tax, property tax exemptions. So I think a lot of people will be surprised to see that affordable housing, which is from the 80% AMI rent levels and down, can also provide a substantial financial yield, especially when you've maximized the impact and all the things that are very grant worthy and incentive worthy, while also still having a unit mix that maintains a healthy profitability. So it's more about maintaining that affordability over time is the test, which we want to bring the Opportunity Zone program is a perfect fit for, from the perspective of maturing that program, where a long-term period of hold gives you longer control over affordability, and over the asset, and better property asset management procedures to ensure that you're building capacity and meeting the community's goals. So that's what we're focusing on. Long-term wealth creation, and with the philanthropic model, we're bringing in. I know we have one project with you guys that has that as well, where investors can turn into donors or vice versa. So there are innovative structures we've also brought into play. So we're very excited, y'all. I probably wanted to close out on that kind of additional plug, and you know, we'll turn back if y'all could put back on the banner, the original banner, to check out the website. And Tim or Janice, feel free to add any closing statement. And Melissa and Amanda, we're so thankful to have y'all on board with us. We've already had a few like the example you just gave. We already had a few amazing moments like that were spiritually and soul rewarding with y'all. And so we're looking forward to more of it. So pass it over to y'all, Tim, and rest of the team.
Janice, wrap us up. But before you do, look up Melissa and Amanda on LinkedIn. We've been connecting and doing some different things together. And I highly recommend reaching out to them, asking them more about their story, their projects, their return on investments, the opportunities, the ability to, you know, work with CMG as well. Like, just ask them all those questions. Reach out to us if you need as well. But for sure, reach out to Melissa and Amanda. Light them up on LinkedIn, ladies and gentlemen. Let's see what happens from there. Janice, land the plane for us today. This will be fun.
Well, I was just going to say, and connect with them on Instagram, because they are 21st century developers. So with that said, you all are rocking the bottom line. You're making it happen. You're building community. You're bringing to humanity what is needed. And that in itself speaks volumes. So we're really excited to be a part of your ecosystem,
Thank you.
Part of their ecosystem, as Tim suggested, find out more of what they're doing, and especially the relationship with CMG. So thank you so much. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be on with you all today.
Excellent.
It's been our pleasure as well.
Thank you guys as well. We appreciate your time and everything we're connecting. And then just kind of add to that point, yes, you can find us online, and you can find us on Instagram at RiseUp Residential is our Instagram. And then to all of the women out there, I just very quickly, I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on this as we close out. You know, it being in the acquisition and the fund space for me, you know, I have been doing this for 20 years. I never saw another woman. It was all 65-year-old white men in every meeting that I walked into. And on Amanda's side, 14% of those in construction are women. So if there are any younger females or even our age or older, if you are interested in getting into the philanthropic, the impact investing, the development, the real estate, the construction space, any of the above, we truly believe that, you know, we can rise up not only those communities that we're creating, but to empower the other females around us. All of our businesses are women owned and women operated. And another thing that gives us tremendous pleasure in the space is to be able to not only carve our path, but to carve paths for all of the women that come after us. So please reach out. We would love to connect with each and every one of you. Ifani, Timothy, Janice, thank you so much for everything you guys have created and for bringing us in as part of this amazing organization.
Thank you all. God bless everybody as well. Bye, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon.
Bye.
God bless as well.